Hello and welcome to Crucible of Words for more Legacy action. Today we're trying to get a bit spicy with Moonshadow once again. We're going for a Monoblack Graveyard centric build. So we're trying to use Moonshadow and Stalctite Stalker and then buff them up using Stitcher's Supplier, Fetch Lands, Surveil Lands, Overlord of the Balemurk. We've even got Lluwen. So this is a 2-mana card. It's a 1/3. When it enters we mill 4 cards, then we may put a creature or land card from among them on top of our library. And then for 5 mana you can tap this and discard a land and make a bunch of worms. So we've got that sort of stuff going on. We've got Hogaak that we can try and convoke back using things like Orcish Bowmasters to help that out. We've got 1 of Timeline Colour that we can mill over. We've even got 4 Ichorid. We're just trying to get our opponent dead and bash in. I did want to fit some Bridge from Below in this deck. I'm not really sure where to fit them in. I guess we could maybe cut the Timeline Colour and maybe we have too many lands and we could probably get away with 1 fewer land. Alright, I'm going to make that change right now actually. Now, we're not going full in on the Bridge from Below, but I think having a couple in there could be quite interesting. And yeah, that's pretty much the deck. We're just trying to get our opponent dead, be disruptive with our Thoughtseizes and Cabal Therapies, and just swing for the fences. Sideboard-wise, I think Barragoyf might be a problem. So we've got Fatal Push, which can deal with quite a lot of different things as well as Barragoyf. We will need to get the Revolt to make this work, but our deck is kind of built to do that. So hopefully that'll work. We've got 4 Feed the Swarm, because I'm not a big fan of the old Leyline in the Void. This is also more removal that can hit Barragoyf. We've got our own Leyline in the Voids, and we've got our own Null Rods for various combat decks. And that's it. We're just here to smash face and do some wild stuff. So like, subscribe, sit back and enjoy. If you've been watching my content and thinking, I'd like to play some Legacy too, then check out 3for1 Trading, one of Europe's leading Magic the Gathering retailers. They have weekly offers and upload new cards every Wednesday. And it's not just Legacy stuff they sell. They have a beautiful selection of vintage and old school cards too. Support from sponsors like 3for1 Trading make it possible for me to put out videos and help keep Legacy alive, so why not give them some love? Click their link in the description below and use my code COW3 to enjoy free worldwide shipping on your first order over €500. Okay, we'll keep this one. We can go turn 1 Stalker, turn 2 Lluwen, and that gives us Hogaak, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. No, that gives us 1 short. So if we draw a fetch land, we have a turn 2 Hogaak. Here is a Swamp, here is a Stalker, and we go. Now we still just have like Overlord and Bowmaster, which are both just excellent cards anyway. So if we don't get the fetch land to make the turn 2 Lluwen into Hogaak, that's still some good options we have available to us. Polluted Delta. Is this going to be a match where we want to get this Bowmaster down early? Just to ponder. These both mill 4, so neither of them gives us enough just yet. They shuffled their library. You got it. Stitcher's Supplier. Does that change anything? The problem with the Stitcher's Supplier is it's not a very mana efficient play for us. We go to attacks. I think I want to grow the Stalker now so it doesn't just get picked off by a Bowmaster. Do I want the Overlord? I think I want the Lluwen. If they're going to try and daze something, I'd rather daze this than the Overlord. We might be able to pay through a daze on the Overlord soon. We don't like any of these cards on top of my library. I'll take a Bowmasters, please. Do I want to Cabal Therapy my opponent right now? I don't think so. I don't 100% know what they're up to. Brainstorm. Okay, would have liked to have had the Bowmasters in play for that. C'est la vie. Right, we've got a play for our opponent. What is it going to be? It's another cantrip before the Bowmaster comes down. It's a Tamiyo. Okay. Let's fire in this Bowmaster right now. If they counter this, it will grow our Stalker. Obviously, it won't grow it pre-combat. But this also gives us the ability to Cabal Therapy our opponent. So either way, we're getting something out of this. I got 2 for 1 out of it. Let's attack with our creatures. They probably just block the Lluwen. You can't block that, it has Menace. So we could have put the Swamp on top last turn and tried to double spell this turn, but I think just having more spells that are good to cast overall is where we want to be here. Do I need to Cabal Therapy my opponent? What am I worried about? Murktide Regent is pretty scary on this board. Okay. They're playing Reanimator. They have a Barragoyf, which is also going to be a little bit spooky. Now, we can outmuscle the Barragoyf because we have the Hogaak, which is going to be bigger. If they can get this Attractor into the graveyard, though, then we're going to have a rough time. This Tamiyo is going to get them a clue. They can also just dump the Barragoyf, which is going to be, what? Instant Sorcery Land. And then we've got Creature. They didn't attack with the Tamiyo. That probably means they have a Brainstorm. I don't know why you wouldn't attack with a Tamiyo. Like, are they really intent on killing our Stalactite Stalker? Is that even that good? Like, because they have to double block this, but they could just take the hit and just crack back for more. I know, unusual play there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if this resolves, we can make a Hogaak. Alternatively, we can play a Stitcher's Supply. I think we're just going to go for the Bowmasters here. Our opponent's got 1 mystery card in hand. If we ping their Barragoyf, is not... Actually, if we ping the Barragoyf here, we can exile 1, 2, 3, 4. So it won't be a creature. So this will die to our Stalactite Stalker then, if we want to attack with it. And then we can get the Hogaak in. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 if the Stalactite Stalker dies. Sure, I like this play. Put the damage on the Barragoyf. Let's convoke this guy out. Kills the Barragoyf. So we trade a Stalactite Stalker and a ping from a Bowmaster for a Barragoyf effectively here. If we get to stick this Hogaak, it's going to be good news for us. Alright, it's in. If our opponent finds a reanimate spell, they can Thoughtseize themselves and reanimate this Attractor, and that's going to be an awkward one. We at least can attack with a Hogaak into it, because it will trade, but they're also going to gas up with, you know, 2 to 5 cards off of it. Magic Online tabbed me out there to tell me there's going to be some maintenance later. See how much of this league we can get done before it happens. See, if I was my opponent last turn, I would have attacked with the Tamiyo, just play the Barragoyf, and then just have the Barragoyf as something that gets to attack instead of trying to block, because then you also bank this clue, and they only need 1 card to really pop off and get his Attractor in play anyway, so just getting more cards would be what I would probably go for if I was in their shoes. We don't know what the last mystery card in their hand was when they made that decision. Alright, here comes a clue being cracked. I will ping them in the face for 1. You can Thoughtseize me. Okay, so they're not even trying to put their Attractor in the bin. Interesting. Now, what do you take here? It's probably just one of the Overlords. It's not great. They might just be having a Thoughtseize and then just scooping it up. They just want the information. Because once we hit them this turn, they're not going to have enough life to reanimate an Attractor later on anyway, which is probably their best way out of this game. Even a Barragoyf is a little bit sketchy here. It probably trades with the Hogaak, but... Alright, they took the unique card in the Stitcher's Supplier. Obviously, we just get that back with the Balemurk anyway. Is there any reason to do this pre-combat? No, I don't think there is. In with the team. This is 11. It's going to put our opponent to 3. And then we're just going to get this Overlord impending. I guess I'll take a Supplier. So it should be noted, you can't get back other Overlords or the Hogaak using the Overlord of the Balemurk, because they're both avatars. And it specifically states a non-avatar creature. Alright, what are you going to do to overcome our board here, opponent? Do you have, like, Tainted Indulgence into Animate Dead? That would keep you alive. Alright, we won the first game. That's a good sign for us. Okay, I think this is probably going to be a Leyline of the Void matchup. Do you want these Fatal Pushes or do you want these Feed the Swarms? I think we want to Feed the Swarms because they can hit Attractor or they can hit Barragoyf. Then we have to decide if we want other stuff. Bridge from below. If we're leylining, then the bridges will always trigger, and that's going to be quite nice for us. How are we trimming stuff? Maybe it's like Ichorids that get trimmed here. We could just trim all this stuff. And then we just need to find a couple more cuts to fit these bits in. I like all of our hand disruption and our 1-drops is the problem here. I think Overlord is just a powerful card. Maybe we could trim it though. If we're boarding out some of this graveyard stuff, just so that we can handle our opponent's stuff. Alright, we'll try this. Maybe there's an argument for bringing in more Fatal Pushes so that we can deal with some sort of additional Barragoyfs and other creatures and Tamiyos and all that sort of jazz. Only 1 land, but we can play quite well off of 1 land, and we're not going to get bodied by a graveyard line from our opponent. We've got a lot of basics, so we're pretty happy to play on basics, obviously. We don't really want to be fetching non-basics. We just have the Undercity Sewers that we can fetch. But we've got 1-drop. So probably going to lead off on Thoughtseize here. And then we can soften them up with Cabal Therapy. They might take the Thoughtseize to stop us being able to do that though. We might just lead off on the Stalker because there'll be a 2-2 because of the Polluted Delta. So it will grow out of range of Bowmaster. Yeah, they took our threat. So we are just going to be mulching up their hand with all of our annoying stuff. I kind of don't want them to know that we drew this. But I think it's best to hold... For our own purpose and game plan, it's best to hold on to this Polluted Delta. So let's Thoughtseize our opponent, and then we can go from there. Reanimate, Bitter Triumph, Tamiyo. Don't like the Tamiyo very much. If we take the Tamiyo, they reanimate the Tamiyo. That's not the end of the world. Actually, no, we take the Tamiyo, they can't reanimate the Tamiyo because of our Leyline. They can reanimate our Stalker, which we don't care about. Alright, let's take the Tamiyo. That's the best card in our hand. And then, what are we doing? We can Stitch a Supplier and just shred their hand a bunch. Flooded Strands, so we still don't know the mystery card. Let's Cabal Therapy you. I kind of want to take this Reanimate. So I don't want them reanimating any of our guys that we mill over. So we've got another Flooded Strand over there. I will go and grab this Swamp and deploy our very small threat. We'll pop our Graveyard out, which is going to be a pretty important zone for us. Cabal Therapy there. Do I want to Cabal Therapy away my opponent's things? I don't really care. Like, they don't have anything I'm worried about. I'd rather get the damage in, and then we can sack this to take the Force of Will if that's what we care about. If they spend a bit of Triumph on a Stitcher Supplier, then we're laughing. Or what are they surveilling over? An Animate Dead. Yeah, I don't think you want that one, do you, opponent? Although if we had milled over a Hogaak, that could have been a little bit sketchy. There's the Strand. They're playing out the Tamiyo. So we have paired information now. But this card can just run away with the game, as we've seen many a time. Cabal Therapy. That's not the one I wanted, was it? Is there anything we can surveil that actually gives us power that we can put into play right now? I don't believe so. Let's see if we can get in 1 point of damage here. They might just block this because it's a 0-3 and it's a 1-1. But they might be like, oh, what is this mystery card in their hand? I can't afford to lose my Tamiyo. Okay, they decided they can afford to lose their Tamiyo. Or they just don't think it's a possibility. I don't think we fire off the Cabal Therapies just yet. Like, our curve pretty much tops out at 2, so we can definitely go Cabal Therapy and other stuff. And that way we check that the coast is clear on the turn we're actually trying to do something. This Tamiyo is a concern, though, for sure. It's going to just pull them right back in the game. Just go and get our Undercity Sewers. It should still be in there. There it is. Hive of the Eye Tyrant. That is a threat. Is it good enough as a threat, though? I kind of just want a Bowmasters here. Feed the Swarm. Let's Cabal Therapy you. I'm going to name Force of Will here. So we can try and feed the Swarm, the Tamiyo out of the way. A Brainstorm. It's a good one to have. I think we're just going to lose the Tamiyo. Okay, Days. Tamiyo. So we know the 2 cards on top of their library as well. I guess we're attacking the Tamiyo here. So these 2 cards on top, these ones that are in their hand. Let's feed this. Sorry, let's Cabal Therapy you. I guess we just named Tamiyo here. Can't really let them have a second Tamiyo. Alright, they want to daze this. I will pay. And we could, like, take out the Atraxa right now. I think we're doing that. Maybe we've boarded out too many threats and we just need to pressure our opponent more. Or maybe we've just been unlucky and drawn none of the threats. Because our deck is pretty creature dense. Okay, so we don't have any attacks anymore because the Tamiyo is washing us out. Are you kidding me, deck? What are we supposed to do with this? I think we just have to pass. Yeah, this game is over, I think. We just don't have any pressure. This Tamiyo is just going to tick all the way up and kill us. Swamp, that's probably not very helpful here either. Just Tamiyo going to go all the way to the moon. So next time they get to draw everything. So we're looking for Orcish Bowmasters here. We didn't find an Orcish Bowmasters. Yeah, our opponent's just going to draw the whole deck and we lose. Do we board out too many threats? We didn't board out that many threats, really. We just boarded out some Ichorids and the Overlords. Are they going to be doing as much graveyard stuff now they know we're running Leylines is the question. Probably not as much, which makes the Feed the Swarms better for us. Supposed to have this much graveyard, so this much hand disruption. Like, we do have a lot of like threats. You've got Moonshadow, Stalker, Hogaak, Overlord, Bowmasters. Like, Lluwen isn't really a threat on its own. We're maybe supposed to trim one of these to get another Ichorid in, or an Overlord. And trim this for an Overlord. Maybe the Overlord's just better because it's better into Tamiyo because it can dig us for a creature. Let's make a little tweak here. Okay, that's more like it. I have an answer to Barragoyf, we have an answer to their reanimation stuff. We have some real threats. More like how we drew it up. I'll start with Leyline in play. Also jam in a Moonshadow. And then hopefully we can ride this Moonshadow all the way to the bank. Next turn we probably go fetch land Lluwen just for mana efficiency's sake. And just start the beatings. Left a card on top. It might be a fatal push then. Let's crack this. Yield to this. We'll play the Lluwen into the days because I'd rather just get days than the other cards we have. Do we get Hogaak? We don't get a Hogaak. Do I want one of these cards? Stitcher Supplier is kind of interesting. Digs us quite a lot. Overlord is just a nice thing to have. I'll put this on top. I also don't want to be reanimated as well, so let's attack. Oh, I should have cracked this Cabal Therapy first. Then the Fatal Push here. We missed a point of damage. Not Fatal Push. They have a Dathi Voidwalker though, which I assume will be their play. They're pondering instead. I guess they're more worried about the Moonshadow that's in play than what we can do in following turns. You found the Fatal Push? It's a Tamiyo. Well, that's not blocking. So they could have a blue card in hand here. What do I want to do? I quite like the Overlord here. Also like the Feed the Swarm. I think we just want to get the Overlord in. If they counterspell this, it grows our Moonshadow. Right, they had a Brainstorm as well, so that's the Tamiyo not flipping. But now we also get to crash in for 5. At this point, I'm not even too bothered by this Dathi Voidwalker existing. We've already got our big beater. I assume they're coming in with a Tamiyo, cracking a clue into their... They're probably not cracking the clue, actually. They're probably just going to bank the clue for now and play a Voidwalker if they don't have anything that interacts with the board. That way, that can stop the board getting worse. We don't want to see a reanimate on the Overlord. But that does put them to 5, actually. That puts them dead, right? So they can't do that. So we do want to see that, I suppose. They're not going to do that, though. A Ponder. Okay, Tamiyo is getting close to flipping. They find a land here. They can deploy the clue activation to flip Tamiyo, and that saves them a point of damage. I'm just holding this up. I just want to draw cards here. Fair enough. Let's play this Bloodstained Mire. Crack this Bloodstained Mire. And grow our friend. Let's get a Swamp. Let's grow our friend again with the Stitcher Supplier. We'd like to take 7, opponent. We just attack here. If they have an Orcish Bowmaster and they flash it in, we can just take out one of the guys so they can't block. Let's Cabal Therapy you. Cracking. An Orcish Bowmasters, you say? You got it. They could have fired this in combat to stop us doing this. Right, you can pay me for 1. We know they have a Dathi Voidwalker in hand, so we're just going to take it. Leaves them with just a Thoughtseize that is useless here. I will now play this Orcish Bowmasters. I will ping our opponent for 1. This way, fetch lands are off. They can't crack a clue, so they don't get any choice of looking for extra stuff. And we can still use this Feed the Swarm to push through the final point of damage if we need to. Actually, we already have the lethal damage because of the menace on the Moonshadow. We done enough, opponent? You ready to pack it in? Alright, we got the first match. Nice. Let's go to round number 2. Moonshadow into Supplier. I'll keep this. We're on the play, so we don't have to worry about Bowmasters taking out our Moonshadow. Basic Swamp, Moonshadow. Next turn is Fetch Land plus Stitcher's Supplier, or Fetch Land, Orcish Bowmasters, depending on the matchup and what we want to do and what we draw. Ideally, if we can draw another 1-drop, then I would like to get this Stitcher's Supplier down. We just getting Fatal Push straight away? No, getting Ploughed. Alright. I will deploy this Swamp. A bit telegraph we have a Bowmaster here. I would like to try and kill a creature if they're on an energy deck. And if they're on some... Okay, this looks more like energy. A Voice of Victory. Do we even play this out? Is it better to save it as a removal spell for an Ocelot Pride? Probably. Alright. Our opponent is going to be the better aggro deck, I feel. Let's get this Stalactite Stalker in. Let's get this Stitcher Supplier in. Let's play this one out. Would I like to Cabal Therapy my opponent right now? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if we mill over a Hogaak here, we still can't cast it, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And the Hogaak itself can't exile to itself. Okay, do I want to Cabal Therapy my opponent is the question. And if so, what would I like to name? Probably Goblin Bombardment at this point. That card just will win the game immediately for our opponent. It didn't have it. Okay. Right, we grow our Stalker. Wonder what they do here. They're going to Sand Scout. Get their Desert. They are indeed. This doesn't allow them to cast another spell though. But it does give them some options moving forward. They can get in for 2 damage here. If they attack with this, we block one of the 1/1s. Oh, our Bridge from Below is in the graveyard. That's fine. I think we just need to survive here. Like, the tokens are going to die anyway. Do I get Surveil Land right now, or do I save? I think we get the Surveil Land right now. We need some action. Hogaak, you can go into the graveyard. Kind of need to find a way of dealing with his swords. Because just putting this guy in doesn't feel like a great option, does it? Tough stuff here. We can guarantee to grow this. This has Menace, so we can just get the damage in right now, or we can hold this back to block, but they have Swords to Plowshares. I guess with getting in here. And then we can either play this Bowmaster that doesn't do anything, or we can hold up this Stalactite Stalker activation, which is what I'm going to do. I don't necessarily want to burn this off, but if we end up in a situation we have to. I would probably have to kill the Guide of Souls, because otherwise the Guide of Souls is just going to go wild with all these extra tokens. Another Voice of Victory. Sure. Yes, we have to kill this guy. Oh, we should have killed this in response. That's my bad. I just clicked through the priority pass. We're supposed to kill this with this on the stack. So they gain 1 more life than they should have. If they win this game on 1 life, then that's on me. I don't know how we're supposed to get through this, though. Like, our Bowmaster isn't killing anything. We can play a Hogaak. All that does is gain us 8 life. When we could maybe draw something to take this out of the hand. This is what? 3, 6, 7, 8 damage. Maybe we just don't have a choice. We can double block their Sand Scout, I guess. But the problem is they have this Lazotep Quarry as well. We're so far behind. Alright, sacrificing this Sand Scout to plow this guy. That's interesting, because that means another creature gets us the Hogaak. And they sacrifice their Sand Scout to do it. I don't like that play from our opponent. They obviously don't know what the cards in our hand are. Oh, did you have to have something big and scary that's going to beat us anyway? Right, it looks like they're going to use the Quarry to get back the Guide of Souls. Yep, this is going to gain them 1,000,000 energy, which is not a number that I'm happy with. I don't think wastelanding us makes a lot of sense there. Like, they've kind of got it all, so it doesn't really matter. But we're clearly mono black, so we're more likely to have a business land rather than just taking out one of our black sources, when if you look at our curve here, it's all very low. Yep, so they gain all the life. I don't think we get to block here. This is 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Even if we have the Hogaak, we're dead in the sky next turn. Alright, I think we're done with this one. Stitch of Supplies. I want to show my opponent more cards. I don't know, let's see what transpires here, because we can get this Hogaak in. Play out another land. We did flood out pretty hard here with all these lands. We are playing a 19 land deck. So yeah, they just attack with both of these and we die. Yeah, you just jump the Guide of Souls. It doesn't matter which one they jump, as long as they use the ability, we're dead here. So let's go to game number 2 here. So our opponent is playing what, in my opinion, is the only good, proper aggro deck in the format. And we're trying to do like a little bit of a weird aggro deck here. I guess we want these things, just kill all their stuff. I don't think Bridge from Below is going to be cutting it here. I don't really like the Thoughtseizes either. Cabal Therapy is okay. Ichorid is probably just going to get wiped out quite often, but I don't mind too much. Do we just take out these therapies? Maybe we do and just have a bunch of removal instead. Let's try this. I don't think we can keep this against a Wasteland matchup. Let's mulligan. This one I can keep. I think we just get rid of the Cabal Therapy here. Which is turn 1, Moonshadow. Turn 2, probably Undercity Sewers plus Fatal Push. Because they're likely to have a 1-drop given the nature of their deck. There it is. Let's kill this. Undercity Sewers, see if we can mill over a creature. Take the +1 now on this guy. We can just get back the Moonshadow later with the Overlord if we need to. Lazotep Quarry. Ajani. Yep, that's a good one. They have to double block to have Menace though. Stitcher Supplier or a Lluwen. Lluwen... Sorry, it's Lluwen, Stitcher Supplier or Overlord. I think it's the Lluwen. It puts a body on the board, so it can get us a Hogaak, potentially. Do I want any of these cards? If we take the fetch land, we can double spell next turn. Am I okay attacking this and trading the Moonshadow for both of their guys? I don't know if I am. I'm just going to get cooked by a Golden Bombardment, maybe. No, I think we hold back for a turn. Because next turn the Moonshadow is enormous. Caracas. They can bounce our Lluwen, but I don't even think they want to do that. They can also bounce the Ajani. I think we are just going to let this come through. I don't mind taking 2 life. This is going to be a race. So I don't think we want to be flipping this Ajani and just giving them all these bodies. That bogs us down. How do you want to use your Caracas, opponent? Oh, please don't play Golden Bombardment. I did say we get cooked by Golden Bombardment. Yep. This deck is so impressive to me, the energy deck. They're going after the Moonshadow. Do they have another creature they're willing to... So they make this guy, they ping it for 1, and then they sacrifice it to take the last one. Okay. And they have the Caracas for the Lluwen. Things might be a little bit challenging right now. Let's attack the Ajani. Are you going to Caracas this? They are. So if we could put a Hogaak into play, but they have a Caracas, which makes the Hogaak a lot less appetizing. I think we are going Overlord into what here? We can get a Stalactite Stalker, which we can play and it'll grow to a 2/2. If they play any guy, they can just kill it. Maybe get the Moonshadow back and go for a big turn next turn to try and make the Moonshadow big enough. Okay. I think our opponent is just going to win here because they have 2 damage minimum. They can ping wherever they want this every turn. And we're trying to scale up creatures, so we're just going to be absolutely outclassed. Okay, that is disgusting in the face of this Golden Bombardment. Okay. Is this a May? Whenever one or more cats, you may. Okay, so don't even have to exile the Ajani. So make a guy here. They dome us for 4 here. Don't line up very much. This is a lot of Golden Bombardment damage to ping at us. Let's go for a Moonshadow. Let's go for a Stitcher Supplier. Let's mill some cards and grow the Moonshadow. We did indeed grow the Moonshadow. Wow, the trigger is on the stack. They can ping it here. We can make them sack another guy. Oh, they're pinging the Stitcher Supplier. So now our Moonshadow is substantial. We'll grow the Moonshadow again. Place Lluwen they know about. If I want any of these... Like, another Moonshadow is probably what we need to be doing. Putting that on top of our library is a little bit sketchy. We can sacrifice some stuff to these Cabal Therapies. So I'm down for that. We're also pretty close to activating this for Worm mode. I don't think I want to play a Hogaak here and just bounce our opponent's stuff. Like, just make them bounce with this Caracas. I don't think that's a good use of our mana. I think our opponent 100% kills us here. Static Prison. Well, this is really annoying because this answers the Moonshadow and explains why they weren't pinging it down. It just answers it cleanly and then we have to get it back and reset it and do all that sort of nonsense. And then they're going to bounce our Lluwen. Oh, we could deck ourselves. We're not going to deck ourselves for our opponent kills us because they have got so much damages. How do we get out of this one? We don't have a way of dealing with this Ajani. I did think about having Vampire Hexmage in there because it has some nice synergy with the Overlord where you can strip all the counters off. Same with the Moonshadow. But I wanted to try a more graveyard-oriented build today. Right, so this is going to dome us for all of our life total. Yep. This energy deck is so good. It really is. Statistically, it's one of the best decks in the format as well. Alright, 2 rounds down, but we are 1-1 still. Let's go to round number 3. Alright, what are we doing with this hand? Thoughtseize into Overlord is not a bad way to go. I'll keep this. We should be able to fuel this Hogaak enough. We just need the creatures, but hopefully Overlord can find us like Orcish Bowmasters or something, and then we're away. Our opponent's mulligan to 5, which means our Thoughtseize is probably going to be a little bit more useful than normal because we're going to take a higher proportion of our opponent's dying resources. But they are on the play, so we might not even get a turn 2. Flooded Strand. Flooded Strand decks tend not to be the ones that are mulliganing to 5. Are we just like an unlucky Delver hand? Seems like it. And a Bauble. Right, it's over to us. They're drawing from their Bauble, and we are going to Thoughtseize them unless something else happens. Oh, Moonshadow. Do I want to get this Moonshadow in now? Do I want to get this Thoughtseize off while I know it's going to have targets? Because it's probably going to lose its efficacy as this game goes on. Alright, I'm going to go for this Moonshadow, actually. I think we can race our opponent. That's kind of what our deck wants to do anyway. If they have a Lightning Bolt that just goes at our Moonshadow that we could have maybe taken with a Thoughtseize, that is unfortunate. But we can just get this back with the Overlord, so it guarantees us a creature that we can pick up. I think that works out nicely for us. We're going to see, like, Steel Cutter here. Right, we've got a Dragon's Rage Channeler. Getting bolted now. No, it's a Brainstorm. So our Moonshadow gets to live this turn cycle. We can do some pretty cool stuff next turn in theory. Alright, they're milled over a Delver, they milled over a Brainstorm. They now have 3/3 Dragon's Rage Channelers. So using this Thoughtseize might not be where we want to be here. Now stopping a Murktide Regent is kind of important. But I don't really want to be taking 2 life when they've got 6 coming in on the next turn. Let's see how big we can grow our Moonshadow here. Castle Locthwain, you are not it. Let's crack this. Grow the Moonshadow. Gonna get a Swamp. Let's Impending this Overlord. This gets countered, it still grows the Moonshadow. Alright, so we're in here. Okay, which of these cards would I like back on top of my library? A Stitcher Supplier is probably better just for our mana for next turn, so I'm going to get the Stitcher Supplier. Next turn we get this Ichorid. So we are putting down decent amounts of damage. Depending on what we draw, we might have a line of getting this Hogaak into play next turn as well, which is obviously going to give our opponent a little bit of pause for thought, I would imagine. I suspect this game ends before the Overlord ticks all the way down. Maybe the Overlord isn't actually where we want to be in our deck, I don't know. It seems quite slow for what we're trying to do. Obviously milling 4 is not bad. But this is kind of doing the same thing a lot of the time whilst also being a body for Hogaak, so I think this card might actually be better than Overlord in our deck. Because we're not really here for the late game, we're just trying to get the game won. Okay, we've got this Thundering Falls coming down. They milled over a Daze. I must imagine what they're looking for here. Okay, so they're lightning bolting our Moonshadow. That is damage that is being prevented from hitting our face, which is something I can appreciate. Okay, they like the top card of their library. What we don't want to see is a Murktide Regent. So now we get crashed in for 6, and that puts us to 10, and we are, you know, we are dying pretty soon off of what our opponent's doing. Ichorid, yes please. I will exile a Lluwen. I think we will play out this Swamp. I will Overlord here. Top up our graveyard. An Orcish Bowmasters I quite like here. Or I could just get this Moonshadow back, play the Moonshadow. I have enough stuff to discard. Actually, do I have enough stuff to discard to exile to this Hogaak though? Let's have a think. So if we take out this Moonshadow, we lose 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we still have enough to bring back the Ichorid next turn. Okay, so I'll take back the Moonshadow. Oh no, is this an Avatar? No, it's an Elemental. Let's play this one out. I'm going to cast this one from hand so that we can bring back the Ichorid next turn. There's 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, plus whatever we can put in our graveyard next turn. So I think we might be able to win the game next turn, provided we don't get killed, because these have to attack. So the Ichorid dying triggers the Moonshadow. That's just good deck builder right there. So we've got 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So we have lethal if our opponent doesn't kill us. If they put a big body in the way, that could be a problem for us. So we don't want to see the Murktide here. Brazen Borrower is also kind of annoying. Lightning Bolting our face. Is the last card in your hand a Lightning Bolt, opponent? This not going after the Moonshadow kind of suggests it is, and that's 3 Lightning Bolts. They did rip through their deck pretty hard. You got another one there, opponent? I guess this means we don't get to use the Verdant Catacombs. We do have the Stitcher Supplier, which will do enough. Murktide Regent. Yikes. Well, the worst case scenario was found there. I'm not great at dealing with Murktide Regents. I will bring back this Ichorid. Should we play out the Stitcher Supplier as probably step 1 here? Because that grows our little friend. So if they block the Hogaak, this dies and we're dead. I don't think our opponent can mess this one up in a way that matters. So this comes and taps us to control a swamp. It's not really going to do anything here. Yeah, so we can attack with this one. That puts our opponent to 11. If this one attacks, it'll put them to 3. So all they have to do is block one thing. So they can just block the Ichorid and live. I guess we make them do it. Like, it's lethal on board. There's no reason why they wouldn't just take the block here. Super close. I did mention that Murktide Regent was going to be a problem for us, and here it is, being a problem. If they block either of these creatures, they're fine. But they are pausing, wondering if we have something here. Okay, they're blocking the Hogaak. So this dies, they take 1, but then we're dead to the backswing. Okay, we needed them to maybe like be a little bit slower on the channelers, or not have the Murktide is fine for us there. Okay, so Fatal Pushes look good. I don't think we get to have these feed the swarms in. 7 mana, so 7 lives to kill a Murktide is just too much. We just have to go through it, I think. Maybe these Overlords are just too slow. I can trim a couple of those. I like Thoughtseizes. Because we're so cold to Murktide, we probably do need the Thoughtseizes. Are we just getting rid of these bridges? If we're bringing in removal, the bridges do get worse. Alright. Alright, this hand looks good. We can go Moonshadow into... Or we can go Stalactite Stalker on 1 to make sure it grows. And then turn 2, we go Moonshadow, Stitcher Supplier. That way we're getting the maximum value out of our fetch lands here. Stalactite Stalker, because this will grow at the end step. There's a very similar version of this sort of ability in the new set, except it's if a permanent left the battlefield under your control instead of put into your graveyard. So in a lot of ways it's going to be similar, but this obviously triggers off street race and things. Okay, I would like to deploy this first to play around days, and then I'm going to cast a Moonshadow. Then we're going to crack this. Now we're doing this thing here. Let's get our swamp in. Let's cast our Stitcher Supplier. Leave our graveyard popped out because hopefully it's going to be a really important zone for us. Okay, so the Moonshadow is growing. And we're getting with my Stalker. And then we're probably just going to Cabal Therapy them as well. What am I worried about our opponent having here? That is the question. This Moonshadow is going to grow super large. We have another Cabal Therapy if something really scary happens. What am I going to name off of this? Is it just Brainstorm? It could be Lightning Bolt to keep our Stalactite Stalker around. It could be Murktide Regent, because I don't really want to have to deal with that. Surgical Extraction targeting the Hogaak. You got it. 2 Hogaaks down, but that's a card out of your hand. And we have enough stuff on board here. Do we just name the Lightning Bolt, or we name Unholy Heat? Or we can name Brazen Borrow, which can bounce the Moonshadow. So they're going to have instant sorcery land. So maybe we do need to name Unholy Heat. Like, it's Brainstorm, Unholy Heat, Murktide. What do I name? If we go for Unholy Heat, because we can still keep our Moonshadow alive here. Oh, wow. Many Dragon's Rage Channelers. Do I want to take 3 cards out of my opponent's hand by sacrificing this Stalactite Stalker? That is certainly tempting. Who am I to pass up that level of value? I wish I'd have named Brainstorm first. So leaves our opponent with a Misty Rainforest and a Brainstorm. Obviously, Brainstorm is a good card. And we have triggered their Delirium. But we've got a 6/6 that's going to be a 7/7 on attacks next turn. We certainly have the superior clock. So I assume our opponent is going to Brainstorm and fetch. And they might wait a turn so they've got more resources to move around. No, we're just going for it now. Fair enough. Wasteland, yep. I'm surprised they've even kept these Wastelands in. They could have just taken them out for the matchup, would have been fine. I quite like taking out a couple of Wastelands when I'm playing Delver against a deck where they're not relevant. Because they so rarely actually help you cast your spells. Oh, really? They found the Unholy Heat. I guess we can't complain. We did just 3-4 our opponent with a Cabal Therapy. But still, that was a little bit awkward. Okay, let's cast a Moonshadow. And an Overlord. They didn't play their Misty Rainforest. Oh no, they did play their Misty Rainforest. Sorry, what am I talking about? Let's get back. Which of these would I like back? Probably just another Moonshadow and just be large. Then we can get the Ichorid in next turn. And then also play a Moonshadow. The Ichorid will trigger both of our Moonshadows at end of turn. And we'll start piling up the damages. We're going to go to 12 off of this, but our opponent is on low resources because we managed to take 3 of them. So they didn't get to brainstorm and turn them into better cards or just have a massive board. Line of Bolt on the Moonshadow. Sure. Not a bad little rip there. Just get rid of the Stalactite Stalker, I think. We've got an Ichorid. Let's deploy a Moonshadow. Let's play Lluwen. Or Lluwen, sorry, not Lluwen. Alright. Would I like to put any of these on top of my library? I could put a Stitcher Supplier on top and get a bunch more looks, but... Oh, it has to be one of these 3 cards I've milled over, doesn't it? A land just guarantees casting this Ichorid from hand. I guess we put the Bloodstained Mire on top. Attacks for 3. Ichorid goes, triggers the Moonshadow. Next turn, we have this Ichorid attacking and this one, so we've got 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 damage. We do have lethal next turn. I love Ichorid. This is just such a great card. Its time has certainly come and gone in Legacy, I fear. But we're doing our best to make it work. Get rid of this Stitcher Supplier. Get back this land that we know is on top. Crack it. Grow our friend. Get a swamp. Play a 3-1 haste guy. Have you done the maths? This is exactly lethal. Alright. Ichorid's getting the job done. Let's go and have a look at our sideboard here. So there was an argument to play these Leylines. Purely because the Leyline stops our opponent from being able to get their Murktide Regent into play. The problem is if we ever draw the Leyline, it's so bad. But do we think we just overpower what our opponent's doing with the if we have the Leylines? I don't think so. I think we just have to... I guess we could take out some Thoughtseizes. We don't really want to be spending our life that way. Alright. I'm kind of just tempted to have 3. Because this isn't like a big matchup. Let's just have 3 Leylines in. Because then if we've got a reasonable chance of having one in our opening hand, but we're unlikely to get flooded with them. Now, this might make you think, what are you doing? Why are you only running 3? Well, I think it makes sense. Removal spell, some hand disruption. Orcish Bowmasters is very good as well. Kind of play a more control-y version of what we're trying to do here. Is that actually something that works for us, though? We have a lot of 1-drops in our deck. Alright, I'm going to keep this and just try and blow up all our opponent's creatures, and then overpower them with a Hogaak at some point. This allows us to cast it as long as we've got enough stuff in the graveyard. Alright, we got a Bauble. We did draw a 1-drop. I am okay to make said 1-drop. Are you going to daze a Stitcher Supplier? That doesn't feel like a great place to be. Okay, you're dazing my 1-mana 1-1. I'll take it. This also sets them back a mana. They do have 3 card types in their graveyard, so all they need is a fetch land here, and then starts rumbling for 3. So next turn we probably want to Fatal Push this with stuff to play around daze. Can they mill over the thing they need here? Or they can find the land naturally off of this Brainstorm and just play that. Okay, another Murktide Regent down. That's good news. This is the scariest card in our opponent's deck for what our deck is configured like. I'm just going to take a hit from this and move on. They didn't find the land. Do I think they have another daze? Or am I willing to just slam this Orcish Bowmasters? So they didn't have a land, so what's going to be in their hand? More creatures, I guess. More cantrips. It could be dazes. Like, this is just such a powerful play if it resolves. I think I'm willing to see if I can Bowmasters this Channeler. They do have a second daze. They should know what's on top because they put it there with their Brainstorm. Okay. Have you got fetch land? They have a fetch land, so now they get to crack in for 3. So this is a turn we probably want to be Fatal Pushing this out of play. Do I have to name Murktide Regent just in case? Because it is super scary still. Delver of Secrets. Yep. Wouldn't mind drawing another Bowmasters here. Did not draw another Bowmasters. Let's Fatal Push this guy. We haven't really given our opponent a reason to cast a Lightning Bolt yet, so that's what I'm going to name here, I think. Double Unholy Heat. Okay, I will crack this, get Swamp, Cabal Therapy you, name Unholy Heat. So basically each of these Cabal Therapies was like 1-for-1 tradings. Also, they've exposed themselves as running green. Does that mean they're running things like the Questing Druid? Right, they have a Force of Will. That's not really going to matter for a little while. However, we are now just taking damage from this. We're going to need to find an answer to this, or be able to put enough pressure in that we can overrun our opponent. Alright, here is Stitch's Supplier. What do we have here? Cabal Therapies. We have an Ichorid here. We can get the Ichorid back and play this Hogaak next turn. If we Cabal Therapy ourselves now, we end up with 2 Ichorids. That doesn't really help what we're trying to do here. Okay. So I think we're just going to get this Ichorid back. Try and cast the Hogaak. And see if we can get this force out of our opponent's hand. Alright, going down to 9. Now our clock is going to be big once it's in play. That's a big if it's going to be in play and if our opponent doesn't kill us with burn spells and all sorts of stuff. Cabal Therapy. Okay, that's a good one. Let's Cabal Therapy out this Force of Will. This guarantees that we resolve our Hogaak here. Oh, they've just got this blank wasteland. And then we can go and get this Hogaak into play. We get rid of the stuff that isn't useful in the graveyard. Do we need this many Cabal Therapies? Probably not. Do I want to Cabal Therapy this Ichorid? Does it make any difference if we Cabal Therapy the Ichorid? Maybe, because this is going in the graveyard, it gives us more damage. So I think that is correct. It's going to target ourselves, sacrificing the Stitch's Supplier. We mill 3. If we find a creature here, we did. So we're going to be able to get both Ichorids back next turn. So we've got 17 damage next turn coming in. We've got 6 plus 8. Well, no, not 17 damage. We've got 3 Ichorids in here, but only 2 creatures. 1, 2, 3. No, we have them all back. So that's 9 plus 8. Yeah, so there's 17. Our opponent said GG's. Alright, they just don't want to continue playing. Like, they're not dead. If they draw... Okay, they've already drawn their cards. They needed to draw something that turn, I guess. And they just didn't. Alright, we got another match. Very nice. Let's go to round number 4. We are on the play for round 4. Our hand is unplayable. Let's mulligan. This hand is not great. I think Surveil Land into Orcish Bowmasters gets us some of the way we want to be. Let's get rid of this Hogaak for now. We do have the Hive of the Eye Tyrants. That is a slightly more impressive threat than like a Bowmasters. Obviously, there are certain decks where the Bowmasters can absolutely shred people. Underground Sea from our opponent. A Thoughtseize. You got it, boss. I think we lose a Orcish Bowmasters because there's no point taking the Hogaak because it operates from the graveyard unless they're playing Reanimator and then they want to reanimate our Hogaak. So we will get some information on our opponent depending on what they take here. Alright, so they're probably not playing Reanimator or they don't have Reanimate stuff in their hand right now. Let's go and get a non-basic here. The reason there was probably a delay there is they're reading Hive of the Eye Tyrant. It's not a card that sees a lot of play. I quite like it though. Overlord of the Balemurk. That is pretty good, isn't it? Let's play out this Hive of the Eye Tyrant. Do I want to just risk this Bowmasters right now into a potential Daze or an opposing Bowmasters? Or do I want to just get this Overlord in? Because if we play this now, it shuts off Ponders and Brainstorms. But it does open us up to getting hit by our opponent's Bowmaster. It's an interesting one. And then we're going to hold it up so we can at least sort of represent that we might have like a blue spell or something that we're casting here, like hard casting a Daze or that sort of jazz. Because the blue mana does certainly make your opponent think about some things a little bit differently. I will Bowmasters at end step if we don't get a better opportunity to. And then we can try and Overlord and just stick this Hogaak. There is a Brainstorm, so they definitely have a Daze. Like, they know we have this Bowmasters. We know they're going to Daze it. I'm okay with that exchange. It gives them fewer cards to necessarily... Well, not necessarily fewer cards, but if they want to keep that land that they put in their hand, that gives them less stuff to move around. And it also means that they're not going to be able to deploy things out as quickly here because we're setting them back on a land drop. And then the Overlord can just go and buy back this Bowmasters. Polluted Delta. And a Netherglyph. Okay, so pretty like stock blue-black tempo would be my guess here. I don't know if they're doing Moonshadow stuff. Speaking of Moonshadow stuff, let's play the Moonshadow. There's no Daze available for our opponent this turn, so you have to Force of Will something. Let's get this Overlord in. If you Force of Will this, you do still grow the Moonshadow. Obviously the Moonshadow is going to grow from this as well, unless something really weird happens. I will take this Orcish Bowmasters, please. That seems like the best card for us out of the options. So now we've got our scaling Moonshadow versus their not necessarily scaling as fast Nethergoyf. The thing about Nethergoyf, so I do think Nethergoyf is stronger than Moonshadow just on its own, because like the turn 1 Moonshadow is pretty scary, but the problem is like the turn 3 or 4 Moonshadow isn't that scary, whereas the turn 3 or 4 Nethergoyf is way scarier. I think some decks just want to play both, to be honest with you, because they do kind of work together nicely. That is a Hogaak. 5 cards in our opponent's hand. I think we're just going to play this pre-combat, because if anything gets countered, it grows on Moonshadow. Let's ping our opponent, make a guy. Try and get the Hogaak in. Right, it just worked. What do I not want our opponent to have here? This won't put a card in our graveyard if we sacrifice the army token. But I think that's the best thing we can sacrifice here. Because our opponent probably fires something off here, and then we can work out what the rest of their hand might consist of. It's going to be a Fatal Push. It's an Orcish Bowmasters. You got it. So this probably goes after our Bowmasters, which will then grow our Moonshadow so that we can attack comfortably through this. What do I not want to see here? Brazen Borrower is a little bit annoying. I don't really want to see Kaito, actually. Kaito is usually the top end of these decks. Okay, we did hit the Kaito. They've got Feed the Cycle, which is a really cool removal spell you might not have seen. So it's 2 mana instant, destroy type creature or planeswalker, but you either have to forage, which is exiling 3 cards, or sacrificing a food, or you can pay black. Okay, so now we've got a big boy that's probably just going to eat this Feed the Cycle. They can just pay 3 mana for it and keep their graveyard intact. Alright, so they're not going to be paying 3 mana for it, so they're going to have to shrink their Nethergoyf here. Because if they remove 3 cards, I don't think there's what, 2 sorceries, 2 instants, 2 lands, 1 card. So they can remove 1 instant, 1 sorcery, and 1 land. Actually, yeah, they can just forage without shrinking their Nethergoyf. That's pretty solid. Interested they didn't just fire it off here and get an attack in. They're on the defensive. An Ichorid. It's not ideal here, is it? I guess we go to attacks. We send this in. It's just going to get hit by the feed. But that will grow our Moonshadow. You're really just taking the 8 here. I'm going to 4. Wowzers. They're really worried about something that we can cast, I guess. But they can try and daze stuff. I don't know why they didn't feed the cycle on the Hogaak here. We can't bring it back yet at all. Now here comes the feed the cycle. They're spending a bit of time, which means they're like clicking through little options. Okay. Well, they're getting rid of the Moonshadow. Oh, does this mean they've found another Kaito, perhaps? Because Kaito is very strong on this board. We do still have the Ichorid, so if we draw a land, we get a 3-1 haster. If we don't draw a land, then we're going to be drawing a spell, which is hopefully going to be pretty good for us. Sink into Stupor. Sure. So they swing out here. They haven't seen any of our haste guys yet. So if we have a land, it puts our opponent to 1, and then it turns off this fetch land and Force of Wills in the future. Alright, that's the plan. This is just going to eat the days. But being in the graveyard means it comes back next turn, which is good for us. Because this way we can bring it back, and then if we draw a land next turn, we activate Hive the Eye Tyrant. Oh, they're cracking the fetch land. They do still have this daze, right? I'm not hallucinating that one. They left a card on top. A little bit worried about that. You're just going to daze this and get your Surveil value? Yeah. But we want the Ichorid in the graveyard. It's better there than it is in our hand. So if we draw a land next turn, we can fire up the Eye and the Ichorid, and that's 2 lethal threats. One of them is this Menace? It is Menace. So I need to keep back all 3 creatures this turn, unless they have a play. Because if we hit a land, we can just kill them. Okay, so they probably have a play here. It's a Kaito. That's okay. So this is what, 7, 8? So they're just stone cold dead to a land if we have it here. We've got 2 cards in hand. We don't know. We know one of them is Bowmaster. We don't know what the other one is. So a land off the top is lethal here. Actually, this Ichorid on its own is lethal, right? Why have they done this? Oh no, says our opponent. Okay. My little perplexing is now their problem. Okay. Ichorid for the win. I wonder what if we'd have drawn the land. We would have drawn the land as well, so we would have had 2 lethal threats. Okay, I would like to fatal push some of their little annoying guys. Is this a Leyline in the Void matchup? Barragoyf is not great for us. The fatal push can hopefully deal with that. The Leyline, I don't think they actually run Murktide. Generally speaking, their top end is Barragoyf and Kaito most of the time. That doesn't mean they can't be running Murktide. Some builds still do. I don't really like these bridges that much. They've kind of been a little bit weak the whole game. I want to take out a couple of these as well. I guess there's some pushes. Do we want any Feed the Swarms just to deal with some creatures like Barragoyf and stuff? I think I'm okay to have a couple in. Or maybe just have one and shave on Thoughtseize. Is this going to be a particularly Thoughtseize heavy sort of game? Do I want to just swap them all for Feed the Swarms? I don't think I do, but I think I'm actually going to have a third Balemurk in and a second Feed the Swarm. Actually, we get all of our Balemurks in here. We just want to be the problem and just keep firing stuff at our opponent until they die. Like, I think our matchup into these sorts of tempo decks feels alright. Like, we beat the blue-black tempo reanimator. We beat the Delver. Like, it feels like we've got game into them. Okay, yeah, Moonshadow, Surveil Land. We can go Stalactite Stalker on turn 1 and just scale it up out of Bowmaster range. Tamiyo, yep, that is a very good Magic the Gathering card. Let's go and get ourselves a basic swamp and deploy the Stalker. This at least can pressure Tamiyo next turn because it's going to be a 2-power guy. So if they try and brainstorm and go to the roof with Tamiyo, we can just kind of ignore that a little bit. Or at least keep it down. It's not going to be... The Wasteland when we happen to have our Undercity Sewers is kind of annoying. But if they Wasteland us when we have the Moonshadow out, we at least get the growth. I think they take the Moonshadow here. It's obviously not one of the Hogaaks, so it's one of these 3 cards. I don't know how bothered they are by Feed the Swarm. I know when this card came out, people were like, oh, you can't give enchantment hate to black players. You know, it's not a black ability. But I think, just as a little designer side here, I really like the idea of black being able to do kind of anything, but at a cost. You know, greatness at any cost, as a great piece of flavor text once said. Okay, so we get our Moonshadow here. It's probably getting counterspelled with the days here, I would imagine. Oh no, we're just in. Let's try and scale this up. We're going to put pretty much anything into the bin here. That counts as anything. Just to make sure this grows outside of Orcish Bowmasters range. This also grows our Stalker as well. So we've got a reasonable amount of pressure coming in next turn. Because it's going to be 5 damages for next turn. So we grow the Stalker, we pass it over. We've got the Lluwen if we don't get Wastelanded. And Wastelanding comes at quite a cost to our opponent. Because it means they're not going to be able to play something like a Kaito this turn, which is one of their better plays. And it also means that they grow our Moonshadow. So I don't know if Wastelanding is where you want to be. Now, we don't know what's in our opponent's hand. So if they've got a lot of low to the ground, like 1 and 2 drops, then Wastelanding here isn't really going to cost you that much. If you can like then interact with the Moonshadow, let's say they can just waste dust and kill the Moonshadow. That's going to be pretty good. But we'll see what transpires here. They left us with the Orcish Bowmasters earlier, which is sometimes a little bit scary. If they wasteland us, that puts a 4th card in the graveyard, so we're getting close to doing Hogaak things. I don't know how much removal they have for Hogaak. We've seen Feed the Cycle, that's probably a 2 of. I'm definitely a big fan, as a Turbo-Dex player, of these blue-black tempo decks playing Feed the Cycle instead of Edict effects. Annihil Spellbomb. Yeah, that's pretty good. So they've tapped the Wasteland. So they're just cracking this now and cantripping off of it. That's not really impacting the 5 power we have in play, which is something that I like about these sorts of cards is the cards going into the graveyard already gets you value. Now, even if you can't utilize them from the graveyard, that's cool. It's only things like Leyline and Rest in Peace that make these creatures look kind of bad. So they've got 2 clues, they haven't cracked any yet. A Swamp. That allows us to play around days. Now, what is the card we're playing around days here? Like, Orcish Bowmasters is the most powerful thing we have here. However, if we play this, it mills 4. We could just play a Hogaak this turn, but that runs... It doesn't run into days, actually, does it? Alright, let's play this Lluwen. Alright, graveyard, get stocked up with the finest things. Which of these would I like? I think having the Overlord is pretty good. Do I want to play a Hogaak right now? I don't think I do. I just take this Overlord and just get the value play on top of our library for next turn. Like, our opponent has to figure something out here because they are getting absolutely bodied by our creatures here. This is going to put them to 10. Sorry, 9 because we grew the Moonshadow first. And now we've got 7, 8 power. So we have lethal in hand. They know we have lethal because they know that we've got this Bowmasters. So they really need to do something here. All right. We just 2-0'd the best deck in the format. And we've guaranteed ourselves a positive win rate on this particular league. That is kind of wild. I thought we were going to get bodied all day. So yeah, 1 round to go. We're 3-1. Maybe we can put a 4-1 on the board with this spicy brew. Okay, we're into our final round of the day. We're playing against Magic Dads, who is one of the best Turbo Reanimator players that exists. They're always top 8 in challenges and all sorts. It's like him and Rudeslay and Shadowgrave are like the 3 big names in the Reanimator space. And they've been putting that deck on the map, to be honest. So, we need to keep that in mind with our opener. We are playing Leyline of the Voids, which certainly helps. I don't know what pivot plans our opponent's going to have, and they could also be playing something else. Let's find out. This hand is kind of slow. I think we can do a little bit better. Okay, this is better. I guess we get rid of one of the Bowmasters. Now, if our opponent is just playing Reanimator like they normally do, they're just going to crush us here easily. I think our game 1 matchup here is not great. That's a Dark Ritual. Which big monster is coming to play? Cabal Therapy targeting themselves, sure. If they targeted us, I'd even consider just scooping so they don't get the information. Shadowgrave. So they're putting a Atraxa into the bin here, and they're going to reanimate the Atraxa with the Shadowgrave. Bunch of stuff here. There's some unmasks. I'm happy to scoop this one up. They're going to unmask us. They have the land to go Careful Study. Probably find another mana source and get going here because I haven't played a land yet this turn. I'm happy to scoop this one up. I don't want to reveal that I'm playing black because then they'll be more likely to pivot into something that Leyline doesn't hose. But here we are. Let's get some 4x Leyline of the Void, please. I don't believe we want Bridge from Blows. I don't think they're even supposed to be in our deck anymore. What do we want to cut from here? Like, the Hogaaks are kind of weird because they are a thing our opponent can reanimate that look good. So maybe we're supposed to cut a couple of these. As strange as that is. Okay. I don't think we're boarding in Null Rods. We could board in some Fatal Pushes to try and deal with our opponent's Duke if they're going into Witherbloom. But I don't know if they're doing that. This hand needs a second land quite desperately. But I don't think we can throw away a Leyline of the Void hand against Reanimator. Like, this is a very, very polarized matchup. Our opponent has more ability to win without their graveyard than like a Dredge deck does, though. Let's just get our threat in and start. I say start scaling, but this isn't going to scale this turn. But hopefully next turn we can start growing it. Let's Cabal Therapy you. I'm going to name Show and Tell here because we've seen blue mana out of them already. And that's probably their pivot that they're happy to board in all the time. Force of Will. Getting spicy out there. I think given that, I'm willing to... we're going to name Show and Tell here. We hit the Show and Tell. Alright, and we had to do that turn, otherwise our opponent would have made it. Ooh, glad I play enough Magic to recognise these play patterns. So they're going to go and get Surveil Land. Get rid of another land. You got it. So we've got time now. They could just draw enough Dark Rituals to play an Archon of Cruelty, and that's probably going to go very poorly for us. I Thoughtseize. Like, we're not casting it, right? I guess we take the Dark Ritual and just leave them with 2 Archon of Cruelties. But we are struggling for mana here. If we can just start playing some Orcish Bowmasters, we can at least beat our opponent down. We make things like Careful Study a bit awkward. Please take the Ichorid. They're not going to take the Ichorid. Unless they've got Cabal Therapies they're really trying to leverage here. But we know they don't have that in hand right now. Yeah, they just take one of the Bowmasters. Maybe we can draw a land here. One time. Or not. That's also a possibility. So imagine if we had the Bowmaster here. That'd be a real threat then. So we've got 19 lands. So we should have drawn one by now. They got rid of both of these Archons. Oh, they're paying cost for something. Okay, just the Thoughtseize. Go ahead. Our main win condition is our opponent Thoughtseizing. If you could please do 7 more Thoughtseizes, I would appreciate it. We're finally going to find a land here. We are going to find a land. Okay, so I think we just play the Bowmasters out now so that any careful studies and stuff are bad news for our opponent. Next turn, we can Lluwen, try and dig into one of our Hogaaks. Okay, they binned off a Force of Will, makes sense. Thoughtseize. Yep, goodbye Lluwen. This is a Surveil land. I think we Surveil first, because if we hit into a Hogaak, I would like to just play the Hogaak. Another Bowmasters. That is fine. That speeds up our clock. It's not the most exciting thing we can have, but our opponent's at no cards over there. So we just need to get the game over and done with. Just do this pre-combat, just get the damages in. We draw a land, we have the Ichorid coming in. Alright, our opponent doesn't want to play that anymore. Alright. I'm happy with how we sideboarded here. Do I want anything to deal with a creature that gets shown told in? Or do we just say, look, if you've got it, you got it, and that's probably the end of the game for us? Because we could play Feed the Swarm, just as an answer to some big boys. Is that something I'm interested in? Maybe? Maybe is a bit of a non-committal answer there, isn't it? I guess if we trim a couple of these, we at least have the outs in the deck. I think we just lose if they make their big guy, and that's just what we have to sort of suck up and take. Feels like we're pretty good at beating up on the like tempo decks of the world, but some of the combo decks and opposing aggro decks are a little sketchy. Okay, Leyline in the Void is fine. And then we can Cabal Therapy naming Show and Tell. They mulligan to 5, so looks okay. We also get many stabs of the old Cabal Therapy here, because we've got 2 Cabal Therapies and a Stitcher Supplier. Don't get me on turn 1, please. They did not get me on turn 1. That is good news. I would like to get a clock in, but I think it's more important to take out the Show and Tell. We don't know if they have it, but we have to assume they do. They did have it. Arcane Artisan is the next one. This is target player draws a card and exiles a creature from their hand. If a creature card is exiled this way, creates a token. Okay. So we need to Cabal Therapy our opponent, taking Archon of Cruelty, as weird as that is. So Ancient Tomb comes in, then they play the Arcane Artisan. I haven't seen this for a hot minute. But if anyone's going to be bringing the juice, it's going to be Magic Dads, isn't it? An Ichorid. Let's get this. Crack this. Go and get a Swamp. I would like to Cabal Therapy my opponent first. Archon of Cruelty. Get rid of that. They've got Thoughtseize over there. Let's deploy Stalactite Stalker and start growing. I don't think we need to sacrifice this just yet. If we can draw a fetch land, we can then kill this Arcane Artisan, which is probably our best line. Uh-oh. This could just be looting, though. It might not be our opponent putting a massive monster in. Because this is still just a loot that you can do. Oh, they found the Atraxa. Uh-oh, indeed. So we do have a Feed the Swarm here, but our opponent is going to have a whole bunch of things that they can use. So what they get for this Polluted Delta that they're playing out. Lotus Petal, they're probably going to play that out. Archon of Cruelty, Dark Ritual, Show and Tell. Well, so what is the exact text on this? Player creates a token that's when this creature leaves the battlefield, exile all tokens created with it at the beginning of the next end step. Okay, so we're going to get Show and Told here. And they get to Thoughtseize us as well. They can even take the Ichorid if they want. It doesn't matter. For the banter. They're probably going to take the Stitcher Supplier because it's the best card. But I think our opponent is 99.9% to win this game. I get Ichorid. This at least gives me something to sacrifice. Alright, so Feed the Swarm is a bit of an awkward one here. I'll get rid of a Stitcher Supplier here, but we won't do the second one. So if we Cabal Therapy to put this card in the graveyard, we still don't have the 3rd mana to activate the Stalker. No, we're just dead here. What are we doing? I think we needed to draw like a fetch land that turn, then we can get rid of this, which gets rid of this. And then we have to hope to draw the Feed the Swarm. Nevertheless, we finished this league with a positive record, and we really beat up on the tempo decks today. We beat Blue-Black Reanimator tempo, we beat Blue-Red Delver, and we beat Blue-Black Reanimator. And those are some of the best decks in the format. Now, we got unbelievably crushed by the energy deck, and it wasn't even remotely close. The last matchup could have gone either way. Like, our opponent has to find the Attractor that turn, I think. Otherwise, we might be able to scale up our guy to then kill their Arcane Artisan. So that last game was super, super close. And we played it about as well as we could, but it didn't quite work out for us. So let's talk about this deck list. Well, the Bridge from Belows were rubbish and not really what we were trying to do here. So there's an easy cut that you can then maybe get some actual removal spells in, and that would help. Probably just like some Shoulder's Edict type stuff. Because I think you want to be able to hit big guys. Because we can kind of beat the little guys because we just go bigger than them with like massive bodies, with like the Moonshadow scaling up and the Hogaak. These all are pretty nicely sized bodies. But we kind of struggle against someone playing like a Murktide region or something large. So perhaps we need something to answer that. Like, you could dip into other colours and play green-black and play things like Malevolent Rumble instead of the Overlord of the Balemurk, and that would probably be pretty good. But honestly, you know, the deck felt fine. I wasn't expecting this deck to do as well as it did. It felt very, very good into the Delver style matchups where you've just got like lots of pressure. You can just keep chucking guys out. You've got some big guys to finish with. You've got the evasion here. Yeah, deck felt pretty good. Hand Disruption was nice. It's pretty much just the Bridge from Below. You could put in like another Lluwen. Lluwen felt pretty good. We played a new card. It was nice. We never got to make Worms. Worm Harvest is a card that is near and dear to my heart. I played that more than most human beings, I would imagine. Like, I played it pretty much every other week when it was in Standard. I even played like a really fun deck that had like a huge number of cards, and you would traumatize yourself to put Worm Harvest in the graveyard with loads of lands. That was really sick. But anyway, this card was fine. It did what we wanted it to do. It is a creature, so it's better than Overlord the Balemurk in terms of getting out a Hogaak. So you can go turn one of our 1-drops, turn 2, Lluwen, smash a Hogaak in, and that is genuinely a lot for many decks to handle. So that felt really solid. You could just play another one because we got things to sack them to in the Cabal Therapy. Maybe the Overlord was also like a bit weak. We never attacked with the Overlord. What you could do, if you want to play the Overlord, is you could run some Vampire Hex Mages. So you've got the Hex Mages, which can then shred all the counters from your Moonshadow or your Overlord of the Balemurk. And it's like an answer to Planeswalkers that you can go and grab with your Overlord. That was one of the things I considered. So there's definitely a few options you could take this deck, but it felt pretty solid. And if you've got any ideas and if you play it yourself with some tweaks, let me know how you get on. I love this sort of stuff. I'm a big Hogaak lover. I think this card was obviously very, very powerful, too powerful for Modern when it came out. But I think it like many of the things that are too powerful for Modern, they settle quite nicely into Legacy. You know, like Favor the Mirror Breaker was like way too powerful for the other formats it was in, and then it's just perfect for Legacy. I think Hogaak fits a similar sort of role to that, where it just is a nice little role player that's strong and it's something worth doing. I guess this is the format with Karakas, which is always going to keep this in check to some extent. In terms of the lands, I don't think this deck is one that wants to play Wastelands, which is a shame because you're running Moonshadow. But I don't think you want to do that. You could play some Lotus Petals to get on the board even quicker. So if you trim, like, you could trim, like, probably the Bridge from Below and a couple of lands and then get 4 Lotus Petals in. And just try and turbo things out a little bit quicker. But I'm not even sure if you need to do that when you have all these, like, 1-drops. But it will make the Moonshadow grow quicker. And I have played Moonshadow builds a bit like that before. Alright, I hope you enjoyed this one. Please remember to like and subscribe. We're going to have a bunch of content with new cards from the Turtle set coming out at some point soon. So make sure you subscribe so you don't miss it. And if you need to buy any cards from that set, check out my sponsors, 3-for-1 Trading, in the description. They sponsor not only me, but other Legacy content creators as well. So they're really important for keeping the Legacy ecosystem thriving. So why not throw them some business? Alright, goodbye. If you'd like to support me in the channel, please check out my Patreon. It has a free guide to budget turbo depths as well as 3 tiers of support. A low cost one that enters you into my monthly raffle for a free donation deck on the channel, a mid-tier subscription that gives you access to my detailed turbo depths guide that is updated every month as well as regular articles, and lastly the higher tier gives you all of the above as well as a monthly donation deck for my channel. If you're interested in supporting the channel this way, please check out the link in the description.